Hi, my name is Pejman Mugbeli and I'm currently a third year at the Arizona School of Dentistry and Oral Health. I'll be graduating in 2018 and I just wanted to make this video to clear up any confusion regarding these repayment options. And I hope you find this video to be very helpful. Yes, the introduction. What I am about to present to you in the next following slides is the latest updates to the financial repayment programs. There's nothing more and there's nothing less. This is it. I don't foresee any new updates to these programs, and certainly not before my class graduates. What I do find odd, however, is that I'm hearing a lot of financial advice being given by people who are either completely clueless on these programs or seem to think that the repayment models are the same ones where you just pay a certain amount per month, per year, for a certain amount of years. This is not the case. With proper planning and foresight, this can actually be very easy. But before I begin and dive into it, I do have to make a few assumptions. To keep everything standardized, I'm going to make the assumption that the average graduating dentist is now 30, they're single, and they're about $400,000 in debt with 7% interest. And yes, I know that the ADA mentions a much less number, but that's because they're including people with no debt and scholarships in these surveys. So thus the average is now being skewed downward, making it seem like the average person has less debt. I'm also making the assumption that the average starting salary is about $135,000 with an annual increase of about 3.5% a year, which is pretty average. Again, I'm not making any crazy assumptions, nothing too crazy. So this is what it looks like to walk out of dental school day one. Well, it's not really day one because they give you a 6-month grace period to figure things out. But after your 6 months are up, you start owing monthly payments. In the case of the standard plan, which is what you're put into by default, unless you switch out, you'll owe about $4,644.34 per month for 10 years, totaling about $557,320 over the course of the term. When you're making $135,000 before taxes, how can you afford $55,730 per year? Even with the income increase, it just isn't possible. You'd be paying something like 50% of your income to debt alone for 10 years. I don't think this is sustainable and I don't think it's doable. This is where it gets a little juicy. The first real option I will talk about is pay as you earn. And you only qualify for this if you took out your very first loan after October 1st of 2007. So if you took out your very first student loan, even if you paid it off in September or August or July of 2007, 2006, you don't even qualify for this. And you also must have taken out a loan after October of 2011. To make a very long story short, you pay 10% of your adjusted gross income every year for 20 years, and whatever is left over is forgiven. And I say that in quotes because everything that's left over is actually taxed. So how does all of this look like? So look at the top left and look at the debt total and the interest rate. Look at the year one income and how it increases 3.5% per year. Look at the monthly payments you'd be making under pay as you earn. The problem is that 7% interest on $400,000 of debt is $28,000. When you're making these little tiny pay as you earn payments of about $985 per month, that's about $11,820 per year, leaving about $16,175 over that is added to your debt. So after year one, you'll actually be even more in debt at $416,175. This continues on and your income goes up, but you still don't cover the interest, let alone touch the actual principal of the loan. So after 20 years under pay as you earn, you'll have a debt balance of $611,734. During these 20 years of pay as you earn payments, you would have paid $348,000 into the pay as you earn system, but you'll still owe $611,000 left over. But isn't that all forgiven? Well, no, not really, because after that 20th year, everything that's left over is taxed on your 20th year income tax. So assuming a tax rate of 40% on whatever is left over, that leaves you with a tax bill of $244,693. If you add what you've paid into the system, which is $348,000 plus the $244,000 of the tax bill, you've paid about $592,000 in total, which isn't that much more than what you would have paid under the standard plan, which if you remember was $557,000. But this is a very naive way of looking at things. What if I told you you could save for this potential, quote, tax bomb? Over the past 20 years, index funds indexed to the S&P 500 have averaged about 7% a year in returns. We can use long-term investing, or in our case, 20 years worth of investing, to save up for this tax bomb. Just looking at the past 20 years from 1996 to 2016, The average rate of return is 5.9%. Pick any 20-year gap and you're guaranteed to have somewhere between 5 and 8% annualized returns. What this means, plain and simple, is that you can save for this tax bomb by putting away money either every month or every year for 20 years and just don't touch it for 20 years and see that money grow. Then again, you might think 244,000 in 20 years is not that much, but this strategy is not only to pay off the tax bomb, but it's also to have plenty of money left over. So let's say you put in $12,000 in year one and you added $1,000 a month for 20 years. I use $12,000 because that's assuming $1,000 a month. So what do you have left over afterwards? This handy little website gives you everything you need to estimate for future savings. You can adjust your monthly investments constantly or adjust it to inflation. The bottom line is, however, that by simply investing $12,000 each year indexed to the S&P 500, you'll end up not only covering that tax bomb after 20 years, but you'll have plenty left over for yourself. You'll end up with anywhere between $500,000 and $750,000 after 20 years, assuming pretty conservative numbers. So I think now you understand this pay-as-you-earn system. It's 10% of your income for 20 years, and yeah, after 20 years you'll have a gigantic tax bomb. So then what's repay? Revised pay-as-you-earn. Repay is for anyone that does not qualify for pay-as-you-earn. It also has a few bonuses, but also a few negatives. Let's start with the bad things. Your spouse's income is included. If both spouses have debt and income, then that's all combined together and weighted to each spouse. Also, because we're talking about a graduate degree, this program is 25 years instead of pay-as-you-earn's 20-year program. As far as the good things are concerned, the good thing is that there's a 50% interest subsidy. Remember that under pay-as-you-earn, each year your payments didn't cover the interest owed. So something like $16,000 was added and so on and so forth as the years progressed. Well, under repay, whatever you can't cover for that year, only half that amount is added to your total balance. So let's see how this looks like on an Excel spreadsheet. So first off, look at this. Your income is $135,000 and each month you're paying $985 for year one. That's about $11,800. The interest alone for that year is $28,000, so it leaves you short $16,175. Remember this? Well, for repay, instead of $16,175 getting added to your debt balance, only half that amount is added, which is why your new year one total is $408,000. And you do this for 25 years. So yes, your debt grows half as fast. The same principle of savings matter. The debt total after 25 years seems to be less than pay as you earn, so you can save less and still cover the tax bomb and still have much left over for yourself. So then what the heck is the public service loan forgiveness? The public service loan forgiveness isn't a repayment schedule or option. It's an agreement that says, hey, I'm going to work for a nonprofit or any government agency, even a 503c1 nonprofit for 10 years. It doesn't matter what the job is. You could be a substitute teacher for all I care. What matters is who your employer is. But while I'm on public service loan forgiveness, I have to do either pay or repay. So then what's so cool about this option? There is no tax bomb. You don't pay any taxes whatsoever on whatever is left over after 10 years. So in the cases explained above, 20 years for pay or 25 years for repay, there was a huge debt balance that was remaining after all that time that was going to be taxed. In our case, because you're under public service loan forgiveness, you don't pay taxes on this, on whatever is left over after 10 years. The only thing that you have to do is just make those 10% payments, either pay or repay. So we're done, right? Where's the strategy in all this? Well, let's play a little game with repay. Imagine we paid $0 for 25 years. That's $28,000 of interest being added every year. What's the worst that can happen? Each year, $14,000 would be added until after 25 years, you'll have $750,000 of debt, and once forgiven, you'll be taxed at 40% and you'll be left with $300,000 in taxes to pay back. Whoa. $300,000 for something you paid $400,000 for? What does all this mean? So let's try another experiment. What if you only paid $1,000 during that first year? Well, that's $27,000, which means $13,500 is added each year. That's only a $500 difference, which means when it's eventually taxed at 40%, you've only lowered your tax bomb by $200. Let me repeat that. Paying $1,000 in year one saves you $200 25 years from now. That is atrocious. What if you invested that $1,000 instead and didn't touch it for 25 years, compounding at 5% annually? That's $3,338. So in other words, for every dollar you put into the repay system, you're saving 20 cents 25 years from now. But what if you invested that dollar? You'd be making $3.38. Well, what if you paid all of the interest and $1 of principal? That's $1 that isn't accruing 7% of interest for 25 years. That is $1 times 7% times 25 times the 50% interest subsidy. That's 88 cents of accrued interest saved. Add the dollar you paid into the repay system, and that's $1.88 that you saved by paying that $1 early in year one. Take a 40% tax on 188 and you're left with 75 cents. So that dollar you paid into the repay system in year one saves you 75 cents 25 years later. That means over 25 years, that dollar that you invested actually lost you money, and that doesn't even count inflation. If you took that same dollar and you invested at 5% compounded annually, you'd have $3.38. In summary, I know a lot of this is confusing and there's a lot of math involved. Someone can triple check my numbers, but I'm almost positive I'm right. For every dollar you pay into the repay system, the interest portion, you're saving 20 cents 25 years from now. For every dollar you pay down the principal, you're saving 75 cents 25 years from now. For simplicity's sake though, let's assume the top number, because who's actually going to pay the entire interest portion plus one extra dollar? No one. It's a waste of money. And thus, the whole point of debt repayment strategy is to pay as little as possible into the repay system and invest everything over the long haul. Not only because it saves you tremendous amounts of money for the tax bomb, but also because you have plenty left over for yourself. So how do I reduce my AGI? What the heck is AGI? Pretty much, and this is a simplified version, you have your gross income, your adjusted gross income, and your taxable income. Going from gross income to adjusted gross income are your magical, quote, above the line or pre-tax deductions. This is where and this is how you lower your AGI. Each person is different and each person's business structuring is different. So I'm not going to get into details about how to lower your AGI as much as possible, but the easiest way by far is to contribute to your 401k as an employee or as an employer. There are limits, however, $18,500 or $53,000 total, depending on if you're the employer or the employee. You can also invest in a health savings account, and the limit for that is $3,350. For a Roth IRA, it's $5,500. These are all accounts that effectively lower your AGI. I'm not going to get into the details of what a Roth IRA is or what a health savings account does, because you can easily Google that information. The point is, however, is that you want to lower that AGI to pay as little into the repay/pay system as possible. So remember, not only do you want to lower your AGI as much as possible, but you also need to invest. 25 years of investing seems like a long time, and it is. But just imagine this. If you started out with $12,000 and you invested $1,000 a month, assuming a conservative 5% growth, you're looking at $693,000 after 25 years. That's not only going to take care of your tax bomb, but you'll also have plenty left over. So looking at this handy dandy website, you can pick a 25-year gap and look at what the average returns were. Even if you were to pick the worst 25-year span, I can't see a number under 7%. Obviously, having an AGI of 0 would be the best. Remember that slide where I said you can pay nothing for 25 years and to repay and you'll only owe $300,000 in taxes after 25 years? Well, that's not quite possible because you can't realistically lower your AGI by that much. But let's go back to our regular dentist making $135,000 a year, and let's lower his AGI by $40,000, which is pretty realistic. And let's pretend he's a smart young dentist and he's funding his 401k, his Roth, and his health savings account. And this is what it looks like. So looking at this chart, let's lower our dentist's AGI by $40,000 because he's fully funding his health savings account, his Roth, and his 401k contributions, all to lower his AGI. This is what it looks like. Over the past 25 years, he's paid about $328,000 into the repay system, and he'll owe about $238,000 in taxes after that 25th year. And let's say he or she is a smart young doc and saves about $12,000 a year. for 20 to 25 years in anticipation for that tax bomb. And I just used 12,000 because it's a nice number, and I can assume the dentist saves about 1,000 a month. To simplify this, assuming 7% growth, which is the average rate of return for index funds, you get somewhere between $800 and $1 million after 25 years. So after 25 to 30 years, once he's at the stage where he has to pay off that tax bomb and possibly retire, his 4 accounts, his health savings account, his Roth IRA, his index fund, and his 401k will have this much on hand. So conversely, let's now look at the stupid young dentist who on day 1 leaves dental school and does repay, but doesn't lower their AGI and doesn't contribute to any of their accounts. No index fund, no health savings account, no Roth, and no 401k. He just leaves his AGI as $135,000 a year and does repay for 25 years. He's now paid $483,900 into the repay system and owes $203,000 in repay tax bomb after that 25th year. But now they've got no accounts, no savings, no money, no nothing. Thus, the point is, and I'm going to re-emphasize this over and over again, is that you want to lower that AGI as much as possible and save as much as possible, not only for yourself, but also for that tax bomb. As eventual practice owners and self-employers, we have many tax benefits to lower our AGI. There are many ways you can do this. If you want more information, you can easily consult your tax attorney, your dental CPA, or your regular CPA. We can all lower our AGI much more than other professions. We can save more, we can save for that tax bomb, we can save for our retirement, and we can save for the future. Wait a minute, so what about public service loan forgiveness? Well, for that, you'd be doing repay or pay. You'd have no tax bomb. In fact, it doesn't even matter how gigantic your debt balance is. It could be $469,000 or it could be $484,000 depending on if you do pay or repay. It doesn't matter. Whatever is left over after 10 years is not taxed. The only potential downside is that you'll be needing to work in the public sector, either in a community health center or a government agency or for a nonprofit for 10 years, and you'll need to make those 10% payments. So if that's the case, then you really want to lower your AGI. The less you pay, the better. The more you save for yourself, the better. Yes, your debt is going to balloon, but who cares? It's all forgiven tax-free anyway. Heck, if I was doing public service loan forgiveness, I'd max out my loans every year and I'd take out even more loans. And I would use that extra money for my monthly 10% payments. Public service loan forgiveness is easily, by far, the sweetest deal ever. So in conclusion, and this is my final slide, these are some of the questions I keep hearing. 1. What if Congress scraps repay or pay? Well, most of these programs, whenever they've been tweaked or whenever some amendment has been proposed, they always affect new future borrowers. They wouldn't affect someone that already has taken their loans out under the previous agreements. We would be grandfathered in and it wouldn't affect us. 2. You assume a tax rate of 40%. What if it's higher? What if it's lower? Well, it is true that tax rates change year to year, and who knows what the tax rate is going to be 25 years from now. And remember, technically that 40% tax is for every dollar above a certain threshold, which right now it's $450,000 of income. 3. How do you know so much? Well, I've been researching these programs a lot for over 2 years, starting back in January of 2015, and I've consulted various dental CPAs and other CPAs who've also confirmed my findings. 4. Wouldn't I be better off just paying off my loans as soon as possible and not worry about all this complicated stuff? Well, yeah, you can, but when you're making $130,000 a year, increasing your income 3.5% a year, even if you were to buy a practice, you have your business loan, you have your student loans, dedicating $60,000 just on loans for 10 years is not exactly the most financially responsible and smart thing to do. But sure, you can go for it. 5. If I'm doing repay or pay and I have all this high debt balance for this long, 20 to 25 years, will banks loan me money so I can start up my own dental practice? From what I've read, yes, most banks will loan you money, even up to 100% if you need it. If you don't believe me, read this blog with a panel of experts regarding this exact topic. This concludes this presentation on the various debt repayment programs, and I hope you found it very helpful. If there are new repayment programs created or changes made to the existing ones, I'll be sure to update this video presentation. Thank you.